In a bid to free Okarun and Momo from the Mongolian Death Worm's psychic powers, Jiji attempts to carry them to safety, but runs into a powerful entity. So this is Dandadan, episode 14, also known as season 2, episode 2, The Evil Eye. And as you can probably guess by that title, we are going to be delving into the Evil Eye, and we're actually going to get the Evil Eye's backstory in this episode. So prepare yourself, because one thing I'll say is that anytime you get a backstory in Dandadan, it's never good. So this episode starts immediately after the last episode, where Okarun is transforming into the Turbo Granny phase and about to attack Jiji. And then Okarun starts grabbing his mouth and trying to rip it open. He's trying to rip his own mouth open, and he basically keeps trying to die. He's trying to kill himself. And of course, Jiji has no idea what's going on. He's freaking out. We have a moment where Okarun grabs some box cutters and is about to stab himself when Jiji has to stop him. And during this, he realizes that the Mongolian Death Worm is picking up sounds. It can't hear their voices for some reason, but when something hits the floor, it's able to sense it and it's attacking it. So Jiji's trying to stop Okarun from killing himself, while also trying not to make too much noise so that they don't get attacked by the Mongolian Death Worm. And we have a moment where, as he's wrestling Okarun, Okarun says, "Don't get in my way, please let me die." And that causes him to have a flashback to when he showed up to his house and he saw his parents hanging themselves. And Jiji ran in, grabbed a box cutter, cut them down, and as he's holding his mom in his arms, she says, "Just let me die." So Okarun's basically reflecting the same words that Jiji's mom told him when she tried to off herself. And then that's when we kind of get a funny moment, as funny as you can be when someone's attempting suicide, where Momo tries to kill herself with a glass shard, but as she goes to stab herself in the stomach, Turbo Granny is there. So Turbo Granny ends up getting stabbed instead. So once again, we kind of get the whole Turbo Granny is there to save Momo's life, to save Momo from danger. She calls Momo names and stuff like that and calls her a turd and is acting surprised. But you can kind of see that there's only so much that can be a coincidence. Of all the times that Turbo Granny has saved Momo, you can tell that there's something there. Also, if you hear banging in the background, I apologize. I'm going to try my best to edit them out, but there's construction going on in the house next to me. So yeah, I can't do anything about that. So Turbo Granny, now that she's there, she's able to tell Jiji what's going on, and she says that it's the Mongolian Death Worm. It's using psychic waves that are trying to convince the people inside the house to commit suicide. And throughout all this, we get little flashes of this figure that we can't really make out. It looks like it's either covered in hair or covered in fur. It's covered in something. I mean, later on we're going to find out it's hair, but you can't really tell exactly what this thing is, but we see little flashes of it. And once again, Momo and Okarun are just still trying to off themselves. So Jiji grabs him and he rushes out. And as he's rushing through the houses, the Mongolian Death Worm is chasing after him. It's a pretty cool animation sequence, which unfortunately, I'm not going to risk showing just because of YouTube and the copyrights and stuff. But I highly recommend checking out that episode for yourself anyways. But eventually he runs out of places to run, and the Mongolian Death Worm confronts them and starts sending out the psychic waves. But it doesn't affect Jiji because this figure shows up. And this figure is Evil Eye. It's a figure that we saw in season 1, where Jiji was seeing visions of this weird creature in his nightmares. That's the Evil Eye. And the Evil Eye, he has his own suicide psychic waves. But because the Mongolian Death Worm is sending out his waves and the Evil Eye is sending out his waves, they're kind of canceling each other out. So temporarily, Momo and Okarun are okay. And we just kind of get a chibi funny image of them talking about how gross Evil Eye is. Because Evil Eye is just this weird, creepy, naked dude who just wears underwears. And we have a moment where he does The Exorcist, where he turns his head around to stare at them. And of course, that kind of just freaks everybody out. But because they're okay, Okarun is able to turn into the Turbo Granny form and go all out. So we get a cool moment where he does his all-out headbutt attack that basically decapitates the Mongolian Death Worm. But because it's a worm, it's able to regrow its head back again. So the danger is not over. And Okarun is gone. He used his all-out attack to decapitate the Death Worm, and because of that, it like just sent him like way off into the distance. So now Momo and Jiji are kind of on their own as they're being attacked by the Mongolian Death Worm, and the evil eye is constantly trying to make eye contact with them, and Topper Granny's saying, "Don't let it make eye contact with you." But eventually, the evil eye is able to get in front of Jiji and stare him in the face and make contact, and then that's when we get the evil eye's backstory. We go into the past, in feudal Japan, where we see some happy kids dancing and frolicking in the fields, and unfortunately, none of them are the evil eye. The evil eye instead is this poor kid that is locked up, and all he can do is watch the other kids play and have fun. He's always alone. No one ever spends time with him, and he just spends all his time by himself dancing and mimicking like the dance that he saw the little kids doing. And he is poorly treated. Like, he's not really even given any food or anything. He gets to the point where he becomes nothing but like just skin and bones. And it turns out that he is a sacrifice. The Kinto family is there, and they have chosen this boy to become their sacrifice for the Mongolian Death Worm, who they believe is the Great Serpent. And so we see them, and they're praying, and they're doing some kind of ritual, and they have the kid strapped to a post at the foot of the volcano, and it is just terrible. We see him like freaking out. He doesn't know what's going on, and we see the lava slowly coming up towards his feet until eventually he just gets engulfed in flames. And as he is burning to death, he has a flashback to the kids dancing, and he says, "Just once, I would have had liked to play with them." So his final thoughts are that he wished he could have someone to play with. And then we see the aftermath where he has burned to death. So he's dead. He's been sacrificed. But he appears again as a ghost. And he appears in the location where he died. If anyone remembers from the last episode, the Kinto family, the place where they originally sacrificed this boy, this was like the ritual place where they had the sacrifices. Afterwards, they would build houses in that location, and then they would use whoever moves there as their sacrifices. So we see the evil eye kid, and he's in this new house built where he died, and he sees a boy and his parents, and he's kind of happy at first because he thinks, "Oh, there's a child here, I can play with the child." But then the parents killed themselves, and this just keeps on happening. He keeps on coming across little kids, but before he can play with them, the parents off themselves, and the little kids start breaking down crying because their parents are dead. And we have one moment where it's a little bit closer to the modern times where he sees a little boy, and the little boy sees him, but the parents don't. And so the little kid starts dancing. He starts dancing for this little boy. And unfortunately, we immediately cut to the parents offing themselves, and the little boy is just left there to stare at them. And that's when the Kinto family show up, and they're wondering what to do with the boy. And he said, "Well, we're going to offer him as a sacrifice. I feel sorry for him, but we got to do this to protect the village." So this is a thing that's been going on throughout the centuries, where they would build a house on the original ritual site that the boy was burned at, and then families will move in there. The parents will all off themselves. The kids will survive, and the kids end up being buried inside the house. So we see the little boy, he's tied to a chair, and we see construction crew burying the house. So as was mentioned previously, where the houses were constantly being buried and rebuilt, well, they're not just being buried, they're being buried with the live kid inside. So yeah, it's really messed up. And I'm just thinking, like, man, how would you, like, what would be the best way to go? Burning to death or being buried alive? They both suck. So yeah, we see the kid, he's crying, he's being buried alive. I don't know why the Kinto family stripped him down to his underwears. But as he's being sacrificed, the evil eye kid is there, and he's trying to free him. He's trying to untie the ropes. He's trying to free this kid because he doesn't want this kid to die. Because he's still, he's good. He's just a little boy that ended up being sacrificed. Unfortunately, he's a ghost. And so because he's a ghost, his hands just go through the ropes. He can't physically interact with the kid or with the object that the kid's strapped to. He can't untie the ropes that's bounding this kid. So he's just stuck there witnessing this kid being buried alive and dying. And that's his faith. His faith was not only that in life he was mistreated and malnourished and could do nothing but watch kids play in the distance, only to be burned alive at the foot of a volcano. But then as he comes back as a ghost, he has to witness kids watching their parents offing themselves, and then he has to watch the kids being buried alive. And there's nothing he can do about it. He's just forced to stay there and witness it all. He can't leave the area because this is his burial site. And he just basically says, I'll never forgive them. I'll never forgive the Kinto family. And that's when Jiji gets snapped back to the present time. And he has witnessed all this. He's seen the history of the evil eye. And Momo's trying to destroy the evil eye. Momo's trying to like grab the evil eye and rip him off of Jiji. But Jiji fights her off and says, hey, you know, he's been suffering all along. This isn't his fault. And then Jiji rushes off. He rushes down further into the pit. And Momo tries to chase after him. And as I was watching this, I was like, this reminds me of something. Mostly reminds me if anyone has ever played the video game horror series Siren. This reminds me of one of the levels in Siren, where it's like a bunch of like weird houses and it's like this weird kind of labyrinth. This really reminds me of that game, which I love. I love Siren. Siren is a cool franchise. I hope they bring it back at some point. It deserves either a remake or a sequel. Eventually, Jiji gets down to the very bottom where we have the original place that the evil eye was locked in. And we see the evil eye, nothing but a skeleton with just hair growing everywhere. And Jiji's just like, you've been trapped here for so long. Momo arrives and tells him to get away from the evil eye. Even Turbo Granny is like, he's not the same. You don't get it. Don't trust him. He's evil. And Jiji is like, he's not evil. He may look different, but he's the same as us. And Turbo Granny's like, he's not. Like, you can't trust him. Don't believe anything he says. That's when the Mongolian Death Worm has arrived. And it's like, looks like it's like barfing out like honey or something. It's barfing out some kind of weird orange sticky liquid thing that's kind of trapping them. And as this is happening, we see like Jiji, he's on the ground, and the hair from the evil eye starts enveloping him. And then he gets teleported to where the evil eye is, as the evil eye is like laying on the floor, malnourished, just saying that he wants to play. And Jiji says, sure, let's play together a lot. What do you want to play? And then Jiji does his crazy antics. He says, we can play together forever. And the evil eye has like this evil smirk and it says, good, that's just what I wanted to hear. And then we see the evil eye going into Jiji. And the Mongolian Death Worm is about to eat Momo when Jiji just appears out of nowhere, punches it, and we see that Jiji has turned into the evil eye. And he reminds me very much of Genos from One Punch Man. I don't know why. I just kind of get that vibe. But yeah, Jiji now has the evil eye's power, and the evil eye, after punching the Mongolian Death Worm, it goes and attacks Momo. It kicks her, and then it tries to hit her again, and Momo's forced to use her powers to try to protect herself. And Turbo Granny basically reveals, like, I told you, you couldn't trust it. The thing with the evil eye is that it started off as just an innocent little kid. But because of all that it witnessed and all that it went through, because of the fact that it was sacrificed, because it was forced to watch other kids lose their parents and be sacrificed in gruesome ways, it eventually started turning its anger and hatred from the Kinto family to just humanity in general. So now the evil eye just wants to wipe out humanity because of all the evil things that it was forced to witness at the hands of humans. And Momo being human, well, that makes her a target. So the evil eye goes after her. But before he can do too much to Momo, they're interrupted by the Death Worm again. And we see the evil eye is able to use all the hatred and negativity from all the kids and all the people that have been killed in this area. And he gathers them all into this ball. And we have this really cool moment. I love the animation for it, where we see Jiji's love for soccer, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the evil eye's powers, where he uses this ball and he basically does a bunch of like soccer kicks. So he's kicking the ball at the Mongolian Death Worm. It's piercing through it, bounces off walls, comes back to Jiji, and Jiji's just constantly kicking it, and he's just punching a bunch of holes into the Mongolian Death Worm, until eventually the Mongolian Death Worm is out of commission. It gets damaged so much that it just ends up escaping. It doesn't want anything to do with the evil eye. And then Jiji turns his sights onto Momo. And Momo's wondering, like, how did this happen? How was evil eye able to get Jiji? Jiji never had any powers in grade school. He was just a normal kid. And that's when Turbo Granny says, well, don't you remember what Seiko said? And then we get a bunch of flashbacks of Seiko calling Jiji a genius. And it turns out that Jiji has spiritual powers. Mom was like, but again, how? Like, he never had that before. And Turbo Granny reveals, well, everyone awakens their powers differently. Didn't you just awaken yours not too long ago? Same thing could have happened for Jiji. And so Jiji once again turns his sights back on Momo. Is about to use the evil soccer ball on her when Okarun shows up and blocks the kick and commands Jiji, like, don't put your hands on Momo. And that's how the episode ends. I freaking love this episode. I thought this episode was awesome. I love the location for the Cursed House arc. Like, just the fact that it's like just a bunch of houses, all different designs throughout the century, buried on top of each other. So you just have this weird labyrinth maze of old houses, and you just have this like Mongolian Death Worm trying to kill everybody. I like the backstory for the Evil Eye, though I will say I feel like it's the weakest backstory. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but we're going to get more backstories with other future characters that we may or may not see in season 2. And I think they're like way more sadder. And yeah, I feel like the Evil Eye one is the worst of the bunch, but it's still good. Like, it's still kind of depressing and sad. Like, this poor kid and all the stuff that he had to go through. It totally makes sense why he ended up just turning against humanity. I would do the same. But yeah, the animation for this is amazing. The chase scene where we see Momo and Okarun being carried by Jiji as he's trying to escape the Mongolian Death Worm. That scene is really cool. Okarun using his all-out attack was awesome. Jiji using the soccer ball, like, that was a really cool animation sequence. Even just the different styles that they use, like when we see the kid burning up, how the art style kind of changes a little bit as he's being engulfed in flames as compared to the art style for like the rest of the series. I just think there's just a lot of neat little touches here. Voice acting is really good. I watched it both in the dub and the Japanese audio. I think both of them nail it. Dandadan is one of those where I know some people have a sub versus dub. I think for Dandadan, you can kind of go either way. Dandadan kind of changed a little bit of the words, but not enough that the context is completely changed. So it's not one of those where you get like localizers inserting their own stupid beliefs or humor or whatever into it. You don't really get any of that for the English dub. It might be like a word or two difference than what is originally in the Japanese version, but it's still like the same context. And just the acting in general is really good for both the dub and the sub. So you can't go wrong with either versions. I love this. Like, this is one of my favorite manga series of all time. And to see it just get a really, really good one-for-one, basically, anime with amazing animation. Like, you can tell that the staff really love this project. And they're doing everything they can to make it the best that it could be. But yeah, this is awesome. I can't wait to see what we get for the next episode. I mean, I already kind of know because I read the manga, but I can't wait to see how it turns out in terms of, like, you know, the anime and stuff. So there you go. There's episode 14, aka season 2, episode 2, The Evil Eye. For anyone who wants to follow the manga, this episode covers chapters 38, 39, 40, and 41. And the end of this episode is actually the end of chapter 41. So chapter 41's cliffhanger ending is the cliffhanger ending that we get for this episode. So if you want to dive into the manga and for some reason you don't want to read any of the previous chapters, but you're all caught up with the anime, then immediately jump into chapter 42. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.